I noticed you cleaned up the recordings on the in the cloud. I decided to record um, the stuff to my local hard drive. So if I need to transmit it somewhere, I'll just use a WeTransfer or something like that.
Yeah, and that's what I've done. That I always do it on another machine right next to this one to do a local one. When the meeting ends, it automatically starts downloading to it, and then I can do what I want to with it.
And
Yeah,
we've been getting notices that the stuff that's on the Zoom account, they need to delete. So you can't leave it there very long.
I deleted it today when I saw the message, but in when I've gone directly to the account without looking at the message, I can't find anything out there. But now I see in the message, if I look at it, there's a link directly to the file they're pointing to, and I deleted it.
well, I got news for you. The things that you're seeing are not a warning that you've exceeded your space, but just to let you know there's a recording, and the people receiving it are the people that are supposed to manage it.
Yeah.
That's why you were seeing those messages. There's actually nothing wrong with recording this like 5 times over, and then because you got 5 gigabytes up there with your current plan. I looked it up.
Yeah, and I did. I confirmed it.
So yeah,
And
you got the
we
space,
just
you
got
can
a
use it.
notice today that our plan is renewing this month, and I haven't seen the bill yet, but they said
It'll be the standard charge.
on the 23rd.
Yeah, it'll be $150 or whatever we go for.
I assume so, but we need
You
to
got the cheap plan. I think I got a more expensive one for our church. We can keep a lot more than that. Either that, no, it's a Dropbox plan. I think we got it all such. I had to cut that one down. I think we have 3 Dropbox users. We had 5. I don't know why, and there was a horrible amount that was going out just because of Dropbox. And we have maybe about a year worth of church services. So yes, time to get rid of some of them.
You think?
Just about, yeah.
I just I use a G Drive to transfer videos to Sanford, and maybe about 3 times a year I have to go in and clean out the old stuff and get rid of the trash, and that gives me my space back for going another 3-4 months.
I haven't tried. I've seen this other thing that's out there that's called Move It. That is what a lot of the government things just got compromised with. But I've used WeTransfer, and WeTransfer is free up to 2 gigabytes. So it works. You know, I've had no problem with it. It warns you. You only can keep it up for about a week before it starts warning you, hey, it's going to disappear because you're using the free account. And it's always trying to get people to sign up once you download it or something, but it works. It transfers. I've done that when we've recorded services for people at the church, like a memorial or something like that, and I need to send it to them. And they're somewhat clueless about how to do some of this stuff. I said, I will send it to you with WeTransfer. Click on the link, save it. It's yours.
I want to mention the rest of you here. What we're trying to do is reduce a little bit of the problems we have. So down on your bottom of your Zoom window in the taskbar, there is now a separate raise hand icon. It used to be, and probably still is, under reactions as the bottom bar. This makes it clearer and easier for people to see, oh, this is how I raise my hand. It will automatically move you to the top left-hand area of the screen, making it easy for the host to see you want action. And when you're done speaking whatever the heck you want, you click the same hand again, and the hand goes away.
And it has been removed from reactions.
Yes, it's under more. Look under more. If you're not using full screen, if you're not running it full screen, Mine happens to be under the three dots more is raise hand, which then toggles to lower hand.
Yes,
Mine's in normal screen mode, but probably a different resolution and a different scaling from yours.
well,
Yeah.
And I have all the icons up to whiteboards fit in the icon area.
yeah, as far as the raised hand, I said it was on under reactions as a bottom bar.
Yeah.
But too many people don't look at the various features of the programs they have on the computer, so they never found it, or they struggled to find what people were trying to tell them to do to get to raised hands. So now Zoom finally got wise and put the raised hand as a separate icon to reduce the configuration headaches that some people have.
Yeah.
And just, I think it's a better idea that I think they should have done a hell of a long time ago.
Unless you don't have enough screen real estate, and then it's only available on the maximized screen. And then it depends on your resolution.
There's also the apps icon that shows a whole bunch of apps. Has anybody used any of those?
I haven't, I know about them, but I have not looked at what's there. I think it partly gives you access to your apps you have located on your machine.
Well, I got news for you. I don't have a single one of these.
Okay, well, now see on mine, mine is blocked, and the reason it's blocked is I have a firewall that probably is saying, no, you're not going to do that unless I go in and lower the bar for the firewall to allow it to communicate completely on the internet.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of apps here. I
Yeah.
don't know
Sid,
about-
you have your hand raised. You need to unmute.
Yeah, yes, I do. Yes, I got that. I was curious because under reactions it said recognized hand gestures. So I wondered if it was actually going to recognize my hand to put the hand up.
No,
But obviously
no,
it doesn't
and
do
no.
that.
It never will.
If it had done that, I would have given my hand up for that. But
If you held your breath waiting for it to visually see that you raised your physical hand and put it up in the upper left corner, you'd be expired after a very short time.
as to apps, I've been using them since the week they came out. There are issues with them. One is privacy. If you look at the rights you have to grant the app, most of them, even I use a couple different background apps, even those give them full rights to look at all your Zoom data and monitor everything you're doing, which is kind of weird considering those are background apps. I use a note taker app that does a bit more than that, and I like what it does. But a lot of the apps are pay apps related to different vendors, and that's why they're there. So they're not incredibly useful. And the last thing is the master of the account has to authorize each app in order to do the app. I have when back in the day, Zoom gave us a deal if we trialed on something else, and I don't even remember what it was. We got a second Zoom license tossed in, and we get to keep that for as long as we keep the account active. And so I have Zoom and Zoom 2 as email addresses. But if I add an app on the Zoom 2 one, I have to go in on the Zoom account and actually authorize the other account to be able to see the app. Otherwise, it won't see it. It won't authorize it.
Yeah. Okay, Bob, you had your hand up.
No, I did
We were
not.
just
Not as
testing.
I
Oh.
was-
You were testing.
I didn't even realize it had activated. It happens anytime you click on it.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't take much.
Well, it also,
All right.
especially if you're using a touchpad,
Not-
it takes next to nothing to get that thing to activate.
Mhm.
I've noticed some nuances that every time I seem to get updates, because I have a mouse plugged in on my two laptops, for some reason, it wants to disable the built-in touchpad. And I don't have the box clicked that says disable touchpad when you have an external USB pointing device inserted.
Yeah, I've
I just have to go back in and re-enable it, and then it's happy again for several months.
I think that has to do with an update because I've seen that happen occasionally, and when I've had a mouse plugged in, I get surprised about the fact that I could end up with the touchpad being sensitive. You accidentally touch it, like with your thumbs if you're typing, and it ends up being a
Well, I mean, I've used the box before when I had another laptop that was much more sensitive on the touchpad. There was an old Dell that I used, a Dell Precision, and it was incredibly sensitive, and I had to disable it when I had an external mouse plugged in or I was docked, and it was fine. But this one, it just all of a sudden disables it. Even if I don't have a mouse plugged in, I don't have a pointing device until I plug in a mouse to say, go in and re-enable the stupid touchpad. It's like it's been disabled at a hardware level. Like, stupid. I didn't turn this off. Why would I turn off the touchpad recognition?
Where would you try and turn off the touchpad? If you-
There's an option
Yeah.
if you go into settings and mouse
Right.
that you can go ahead and then you go and do the advanced additional mouse options. And then you come up with a screen that looks like this. Okay. And right there is this checkbox that says disable internal pointing device when external USB pointing devices are attached.
Well, that may just be with your Synaptics
Well, it's usually
driver.
it's
I
usually
have
with a laptop.
two Win 10 machines, two of them with Synaptics touchpads. Both of them have done the same thing. And I have to go in and re-enable it on that screen, and then it's happy again. Something that's just
Well, I
decided,
don't know
we're
if I
going to
have
disable
that.
this.
Well, the Lenovo does that also. If the Bluetooth mouse attaches, it disables the touchpad in the machine.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen where there, and I haven't checked to see if it's down at the BIOS level, because I know there used to be some stuff in the BIOS that could control pointing devices, but I don't know if that's current or not on this one. I haven't gone near the BIOS for various reasons. If it's not broke, don't mess with it.
Oh, go ahead and mess with it.
Yeah, I've that's the problem. I've had to mess with some of these things, and then you got to go back in and fix it.
Well, the biggest headache was I had a machine here that should run 11, okay? And for the longest time, it said it was not compliant, and I says, you're full of it. And I kept trying to find what was the problem. About a month ago, I finally found all the settings. It's not just the TPM. You got to have the virtual stuff also activated in the BIOS. If you-
Virtualization, yes.
yeah. And if it doesn't have both, tough luck.
Yeah. I think I mentioned last month, I was working on trying to get one of these Cisco access points to turn on an additional SSID in guest mode. And I was I could do everything, got it all put together with all the GUI interface, didn't have to go down to the command level and change things. but I could not turn in the SSID on the second radio, which was the 5 gigahertz radio. For some reason, I could only get it on the 2.4. And I dumped the configurations out and compared the two configurations, and there was a 1-line difference between the other SSIDs and this one, and it was just like an SSID command. So I manually put it into the other configuration, loaded it on top of what was there, came out fine on 5 gigahertz, and I used the web GUI, pull it up, and had the box checked. So I thought, not sure why it didn't want to work, but eventually it did.
That's going a little too far.
Well, that's the way Cisco works. Depending on the version of the operating system you're dealing with, you have at least 4 Cisco versions you can use on a given device. From the newest with all of the features enabled to the oldest with not all the features, but most reliable and least amount of bugs. And then you choose your pain level as to what level you want. Yes, Sid.
Trying to get the angle. It looks like my hand is at a weird angle. To me, my hand's perfectly vertical, but on the image on the screen, it looks like it's at an angle, which is kind of weird.
It does look at an angle.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the back of my hand and it's straight up and down, which is weird that it's showing. And actually now I see what it is. The Logitech camera is on a mini tripod, and I noticed the camera is actually tilted on the tripod right now.
Is that why
mine's not tilted, and it still looks crooked to me.
Yeah.
Is that why you're crooked? Is this your excuse
the-
for being crooked?
Yeah, so,
Yeah, being crooked, yes.
I'm straight, but the camera's crooked. Back to Cisco. Cisco bought a company called Duo. Duo is a security login processor that does multi-factor authentication login.
I remember that.
It is, they had a deal. I attended a conference, and one of the deals, you get 50 NFR licenses to this for life. Now, that sounds really easy. Cisco makes this as difficult as it could humanly be. You have to go through 20 steps to be able to get your free NFRs, including you have to create an account, then alter the account, then email somebody the code of that account that you created. Then that gets passed to another person who then contacts you to set up a Zoom meeting, WebEx meeting, because Cisco is WebEx.
Yeah.
You then have to install the latest WebEx to do a conversation with them so they can ask you, what questions do you have? And this is before you've ever used the thing. And you say, what questions do I have? I haven't even been able to use it
I'm
yet.
surprised they didn't ask for you to sign up for Cisco Assurance before you could even create the account.
Well, no. So after you do this, then they pass it on to yet another person who then adds the updated record to your account, where you then have to go back into the account and change the account level. But if you do it wrong, they bill you instead. And Cisco decided this great method of billing. Everything is dependent on the last day of the month. In other words, if you add users on the last day of the month, they charge you for the entire month, because they only look at the last day of the month for billing. So I get 4 more emails from Cisco on this. One of which said, your NFR licenses could be used for any level of the Duo product. This is not as easy as you may think, because there's no easy way to convert that level.
Yeah.
Because if you go to change the level, it wants you to then put your credit card information in, which since their NFR license is the last thing you want to do. You don't want to put in your credit card information. So you send them an email. how do I do this? A week later, there still hasn't been a reply.
They didn't
I'm
say
not
enter
sure.
all ones in the credit card number?
No, I didn't. But I mean, and then it's $3 a seat for the most basic version, $6 a seat for the middle version, and $9 a seat for the high-end version. Well, most of the stuff that make it worthwhile is only in the high-end version anyway.
But it was free.
Oh, yeah, but for most people, it's not free.
Uh-huh.
So then you go, okay, if I decide I want to sell this stuff, how do I make money off it? And they said, oh, this is good. You get a cut out of usage. How much? 30 cents, 10%. On the $3, you get 30 cents. Only Cisco thinks they're doing you a favor, giving you
Yes.
10%. It's really wild. And then the last part of this is Cisco figured, hey, we want to maximize how much money we're getting from you and minimize how much we're giving you. So they don't build in any actual password support. There's no password authenticator in the product. You have to pay a third party for that to attach it to your account. That doesn't come with your NFR. If you actually, so in other words, the passwords aren't stored by them anywhere. You have to pay somebody else for that.
Well, I see that security is in what more or less what you have to go through just to get the damn thing set up to do anything.
Well, just like they said, as advertised, it's a zero trust thing.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
trust him
Yeah.
for nothing.
There's nothing to trust. There's no password, so therefore there's no trust.
Well, they have the app for Android and for iOS. So if you do a login, the app will pop up on your phone and you can then say, let me in. And that's one of the methods of you can use to get in. I also happen to own a YubiKey, and it works with Yubi as a plug-in touch with that one as well. But it's an all in all frustrating thing, and it's not an actual SSO, which makes it fairly useless for anything. I mean, I cannot for the life of me figure out what at least the basic version is useful for, considering here's the final part of this. It only works with a very limited number of websites and applications that they've written drivers for.
Yeah, it sounds like Cisco. You know, Cisco isn't one company. It's a collection of companies that have been purchased over the years.
Yeah, you remember who the ultimate version of that was? Computer Associates. They would buy everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was their whole model.
Let's see, which one am I looking at? The original 6500 series switch from Cisco, which was a switch plus router capable hardware platform, was originally a Motorola company that was purchased, and they basically used a lot of that technology in a lot of their lines. In fact, I think one of their, what was it, the old 1130 access points had a Motorola Power PC inside of it. So yeah, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, all of this stuff was purchased by Cisco and then retired.
Yeah, it was like Novell. Novell did the same thing. They kept buying and destroying stuff.
Yeah, it's just amazing that Cisco is still there, and I don't think Novell is anymore.
Novell turned into a Linux company, an open source. They bought one of the Linux distros, and they turned
I remember
into an
that.
open source. distro company.
Yeah, but that's just like IBM. IBM turned into a Linux company.
Yeah, but at least IBM has a lot of others, has mainframes and stuff. Novell, I don't think has much of anything left anymore.
Well, Novell went bankrupt
Yeah, I think they did.
after they merged with Corel.
Yes,
And that
that's
was
right.
that was a moronic merger.
And they disappeared in 2014.
The guy who became president during that merger was from HP, and I used to work with him at projects.
What always boggled me is, of course, Ray Norda ran that company, and he got all these accolades for the great businessman he was. He didn't touch anything. He didn't destroy. And of course, Novell never owned NetWare. True Major owned NetWare and licensed it to Novell, which is why when the company changed over, it will reverted back to him because his license said he had the right to take it back at certain merger changes. So Novell didn't even ever own NetWare.
Yep. They all disappeared. They well, look what happened to other one, like Lenovo, the IBM basically became Lenovo, and also Motorola Mobility became Lenovo as well. People are still there. They're just working for another company, which is kind of strange.
And what's weird is I can still log into the employee portal on Lenovo and order stuff at employee pricing. And that's I still use the one from a couple IBM friends who haven't been with them in decades, but the login still works just fine.
I haven't tried, but I still get emails that say you have employee pricing. So, but I haven't heard anything for such a long time. So.
I mean, I don't know if it's still good. Gene is with Wintrust, and Wintrust had a deal with Hewlett Packard where you could buy stuff at a really good discount, but limited number.
Yeah.
I don't know if that kind of deal's still there.
I know there's a couple things. I think most of the time I'm looking at stuff from TechSoup now and whatever, but in the past I had looked for, when I was requiring new machines, I was getting the refurbished HP Enterprise gear, which usually had a little bit too much bloatware on it. But other than that, they're pretty solid machines. Most of the ones that we've used are still going after 10 years.
Well, the machine I'm on right now in this meeting, and all of my meetings, is an HP Elite 8000 CMT, and it has a TPM 1.2, and I'm running unsupported 11 on it.
I'll stay on my supported 10 with a machine that's at least that old.
Well, I have
and battery probably that old too.
I do have supported 11 besides unsupported 11, but it was funny. That machine had 10 on it, and I was on the Insider program, and then all of a sudden one day I'm doing an update, and I get a pop-up that says, by the way, would you like to upgrade to 11 Insider? I said, okay, what the hell? I'll do it. And I've been running that 11 since then, but I'm not part of the Insider program on that one. The other one I haven't switched on to be an Insider.
Yeah,
I don't understand sometimes with that. Go ahead.
I'm looking to see when this actually, it'll tell me when it was first created. I can't really tell. All I know is this is an 8560W, and I'm pretty sure it's a 2013 or earlier machine.
Well, mine was manufactured in 2008 or 9, I think it was. It was originally a Core 2 Duo, I changed it to a Core 2 quad, but it doesn't have hyperthreading. And I upgraded from 4 gigs to 8. And a couple years back, that was starting to hit the ceiling on that with Zoom. So I had to upgrade to 16 gigs on that machine. And it's solid state drive too.
Well, I have the original Surface computer and it still works fine on Windows 10 and keeps up to date. I just need a rubber band to kind of hold it together.
Rubber banding, okay.
The
Like, this is
screen
like a,
started
this,
at one side a little bit.
did you have to replace, you had to replace the Wi-Fi chip, right?
I haven't had to replace anything.
Because I know that one of the Surfaces had a bug in the Wi-Fi chip.
That was later, I think, second or third version. It was an issue.
Okay. But how did you put, and how much memory is on it? 8?
Yeah, it's 4 and 126, whatever, 128. So
Okay, so you're running on only 4 gig of memory.
right, and I up until December I was using that as my main machine in Windows 10. It still
Yeah.
updates. I updated it yesterday again, and it's fine. It's just it's got the rubber band. So what do I know? It was time to get a Windows 11 machine, which I did.
I am still resistant to getting too many Windows 11 machines, waiting for it to settle down before I look at. I mean, I've looked at some of the other replacement laptops, but a lot of them, they've taken the Ethernet port out. And I'm not quite ready for a laptop without the Ethernet port. If I have to do everything wireless,
No.
some things you got to plug in a wired Ethernet to.
Yeah, I have that. I've got adapters.
I can get an adapter that goes USB-C to the
Yeah.
Ethernet and do gigabit on it, but
Right.
out of the box, I like to have the Ethernet jack built in, so I'm not looking for something that's plug-in extra that is using. I have 14 things that want to share that same USB port. Yeah, you had your hand raised too, Sid.
Yeah, I got it's a brick that's C on one end, and it actually has an Ethernet port. It has an HDMI. It has a DVI. It has 2 more USBs on it.
Yeah.
So
Type
you can with that, you can then do pretty much what you need on it.
Right.
But that works just fine for doing that. I have to say, I think I've mentioned it. I picked up what's called a Lenovo ThinkCentre, which is their version of the NUC, small form factor machine.
Right.
Got this on Woot for $139, and it came with Windows 10 Pro, which is almost that amount of money just to buy the Windows 10 Pro itself. Came with keyboard, mouse, Bluetooth with it.
Was it?
They actually, to get Bluetooth with it, it had one of the little Bluetooth adapters plugged in one of the USBs.
Sid, was that a new unit or a used unit?
Refurb.
Refurb? What processor
Refurb.
does it have in it?
That one has, hold on, let me look it up.
I
here.
asked because I've seen within the last month or so a lot of used and refurbed units, but a lot of them have low-end processors like Pentium and Celeron. In my opinion, you got to have at least an i3 or better.
All right, I've got it up.
There's
The
one on
processor-
Amazon with an i5 4570T for $99.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's
8 gig,
It's,
256 gig. It's an M93P. And like I said, i5 4570. I mean, it's a 4th generation, but
Sure.
it's still a 4th generation.
Hey,
Yeah.
I've got a 4th generation sitting next to me, but it's an SFF model.
Yeah.
And it works perfectly fine. I mean, I can do everything I want to on it, and I usually do either Windows 10 or one of many flavors of Linux.
Okay. To answer Tim's question, according to the settings about, it's an AMD Pro 810 8770E 10 core,
Oh God.
16
That's the
gig
other.
of RAM.
That's the other thing I've seen is you still see a plethora of these machines being sold with the AMD A processors, and those things are garbage. The best, I think it's the A12, barely comes up to the specs of the same generation of an Intel Core i3 processor, and all the lower versions of the AMD A series chip goes downhill in horsepower and cores. And I think you had to have eighth or ninth, A8 or A9 to get multiple cores, because the ones lower than that only had single core.
Well, yeah, but again, this is a 10 core and it's a 2.8 gigahertz chip.
Yeah, but
That chip-
And for $139 with 16 gig of memory, that's not that bad.
I wouldn't touch. I don't touch an A series AMD chip for anything. You would have to pay me that $139 to take the unit.
No, it's working fine. The funny one is my Windows Insider machine that's running 11 is an A6 processor, and it installed 11 in the Insider program just fine, and they've never rolled it back. They threatened to roll it back, but it's still running
I never had.
11
Well, yeah, but you're unsupported like I am on this Core 2 Quad system, and it runs 11 just fine, unsupported. And one of the things that I do personally is I like when a new version of Windows comes out, how old of a piece of equipment can I get it to run where I can get an acceptable level of use out of the machine. And it's amazing how far back I can go on a lot of my machines and make 10 work, but I haven't done as much experimenting. I do have a laptop that's running the same version of 11 I'm running on this machine on a solid state drive in a Toshiba A205 with a Core 2 dual processor. And it's slow, but it's usable.
I don't know if you can see it, but here's a Windows RT machine, which still has Windows 8 on it.
I've got one version of Windows 8, and I've got 7, and I've got XP as a tech. I don't run them normally. I just run them when I need to.
Well, I get security updates when they give them, but now that they got rid of Internet Explorer, this pretty much is not too usable.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, I can't.
my
Well, I
old
can't-
8,
Oh, I'm
7,
sorry,
and
go ahead.
XP, I only use it for support issues when I can't remember that far back on them how to do something. I can run an actual machine, and I'm getting more and more of them where I can run them in a virtual box and get the same kind of results.
The real problem is because some of the older machines that are little ones that I have are 32-bit, they're falling by the wayside. First of all, for battery, the batteries keep dying.
Yeah.
And space is an issue, but they don't have a long life to go. So I have a Kangaroo, I have an HP 7-inch. They all work. My Dell 8-inch, and all those started with probably Windows 8.
I've got
They're all up to 10, but the 8-inch, now the battery's completely dead.
the only 32-bit that I know of right now that's still running in my house is a Asus. It was a two. I can't remember the letter. I think it's like a T205, and it's a 4-core Pentium running 10 on it, and it still runs okay. It's no great racehorse or anything like that, but it's functional until 10 goes bye-bye.
And I have an old Atom laptop, HP Atom laptop, that still gets updates, but very slowly.
I've got at least 2 Atom systems, and I haven't touched them in so long. It's not funny, but one of them is a T100. I think it's by Asus. That's a 32-bit Atom processor in it. Those are junk.
Why was there Adams but never Eves?
Oh, Atoms they discontinued several years back. I think
That's not Atom, it's Atom.
yeah, ATOM processors by Intel were par to a Celeron processor, which is subpar to a Pentium, which is subpar to a Core i3, etc. But an Atom processor had so little features, so slow, and I think they were only dual core, if I remember right. I think in 2018 or 19, Intel stopped even making the damn things because they were so low power and everything's going so high in, it made no sense to continue.
Well, what happened was the more capable chips started using less energy.
Yeah.
And so there was no advantage in using these low-powered chips anymore.
Now, when it comes to AMD Ryzen processors, I've got at least 2 systems with them, and they are both only 2nd gen, but one's got 4 cores. I don't think it has hyper threading, if I remember right. It will never support 11. The other one has 4 cores with 4 cores with hyper threading, but I don't remember if it would support 11 or not. I'd have to check that one. But I mean, generally speaking, these days, I mean, the only thing I've heard bad on the AMD Ryzens is in some video rendering, don't use AMD. Now, I don't know the details or specifics, but I'm not doing, I don't think, any video rendering on anything but an Intel right now.
Well, I think my son-in-law has got a Ryzen 9 and he's got no problems with it.
Don't know, I don't remember the details, but I remember
Well, he's also got a couple of video cards as well, so all the rendering is being done by the video cards.
That's probably where it's at.
So you're sucking up almost a kilowatt of power. Yes, you can afford to have the cards do the rendering.
Yeah. Well, actually, you probably get better results with the card as long as it's a pretty good card to begin with.
I mean, the problem for the longest time was all the people that were buying up the cards and then using it for Bitcoin, and stuff like that. And a lot of that's gone away now. They've all lost, and now the cards are coming out on the used market.
Yeah, and you don't want them because most of them are so used, they're cooked. Yeah.
Yeah, what happened with crypto is that they changed from proof of work to proof of stake. And proof of stake has a different problem. You use up different components.
Bob, could you elevate your volume just a little bit?
I've got it at 100%. I don't know why my microphone is not doing that well,
Okay.
because this is a Windows 11
Uh,
machine.
Sid, use the other raised hand. We don't know what you're doing right now.
Oh, that one?
No, you play by the rules or you get ignored.
So how's
No, I could.
so how's my volume now?
You're got much
That-
better.
I
Sounds
disabled
loud.
automatic adjust in Zoom.
Okay.
There you go. It wasn't quite doing that well. I'm
Well-
loading something, and unfortunately, I couldn't get to the raise hand button on the bottom of Zoom. That's why I was doing it that time. I held up earlier this Logitech keyboard with
Right.
trackpad built in. For some reason, I can't get the settings to come up. I installed the latest Logitech code, and when I click on the tab, it disappears.
What?
And no settings show at all. And
I know.
don't
Is
know
that
why.
is that a K400?
Yeah,
I've
It
got
is.
2 of those, but I used them on Raspberry Pis.
yeah. It's kind of cool because it uses two straight batteries that last for a long time. I use rechargeable, so I just stick them in. So it have to hook it to anything. And keyboard's not bad. I'm not a fan of the touchpad. Settings is what's happening is the Windows 10 Pro keeps popping up the going into multi-mode where it shows you the screens of multiple screen kind of thing. And I need that nor want that, but I can't find any way to turn that off.
I haven't. Now that's on a Windows 10, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I haven't tried that. I'll have to give it a shot. Like I say, I got 2 of them, but I always used them on Raspberry Pis. I didn't use them on Windows. I'll dig it out and see what it does on 10.
It's
Yeah, if
been
you
my
can find
experience
something-
with most Logitech devices that not using the Logitech drivers at all is sometimes an option.
Yeah, and I will say that in at least webcams, Logitech is getting some bad raps for the drivers they've got. I don't know about other devices.
Yeah, well, the problem is with the older webcams, they don't have signed drivers, and Windows 11 doesn't like that.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, I've heard of other problems with people who are not on 11 yet having real headaches with Logitech webcams. I'm not sure, like I say, other devices.
With my older Logitech cameras, I ended up uninstalling and removing all Logitech drivers and letting the native Windows drivers work. That means I didn't have the capability to track someone as they move back and forth in the window or stuff, but at least it didn't crash the system.
Well, I do not find any drivers available for the older Logitech webcams if you're running Windows 11. There isn't a generic driver. And Logitech never updated anything since about 2011 with these.
Well, offhand, Bob, if you're using the C270, which I'm using, it is on 11 unsupported, and it does work, but it is not a signed driver if you have the feature turned on in 11 to reject unsigned drivers.
Yep, that is the issue.
That means in the next version of 11, you'll lose your video.
I don't know that they're going to enforce it that strictly.
Yeah. Okay, Sid, you have your hand raised?
I raised the hand. Just a quickie. I bought a tire inflator which is really cool. You screw it on the valve, you set it to what the end level should be, and it automatically shuts itself off when done. What was cool was it also has a built-in LED light. You can use it as a flashlight. It has a 2,500 milliamp battery in it. You can use it to charge your phone and stuff as well. It comes with adapters, so you can use it for inflating basketballs and bike tires and other stuff as well, which is kind of cool. What's interesting, I ordered from Amazon at 10:30 at night. It arrived at 4:30 the next morning.
Obviously, Amazon didn't charge it up for you.
No, I know it takes about 4 hours to charge, but it actually arrived. I got it at 7 in the morning when I went out and grabbed the paper. It was already sitting there by the paper, but it delivered according to the information on Amazon. It delivered at 4:31 a.m., complete with the picture of the dark walk there with the package sitting there.
What's the lowest end you can fill it to? 10
It'll
pounds?
go, I'm not sure what the bottom is because I didn't see what that is important to check. It goes up to 160 pounds.
Yeah, which is like bike tire or some of the bike tires. But other than that, I'm just wondering if I were to use it on a garden tractor, you're only inflating to 14 pounds in the back and 16 pounds in the front.
It has device modes where you can put it on bike mode or car mode, but it has a manual mode where you can put in whatever number you want. And then you can display it as PSI or 2 other standards as well on those numbers.
So if your tire is overinflated, does it let air out of the tire?
I've never had that as an issue.
If you plug it in when the tire is warm, it may be higher than your cold inflation pressure.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. My air mattress does that. I can set the firm, medium, or soft, and if I take it down, the air hisses its way out to go down to whatever level it needs to be at. But this I haven't tried that. I do like the connector as a screw connector to put on the tire valve instead of one of those clampy guys that tend to be more leaky.
The screw on can leak too. It just depends on how fast you are at pulling it off when you're trying to unscrew it.
Yeah, I didn't have much issue with that, but I have one tire that's got a slow leak, and it's almost every day going down. So it's
Time to go to Discount Tire.
Yeah. Well, I need a new car, but you can't get those right now, unfortunately.
When it comes to that slow leak, do you have aluminum rim wheels, or if not
Steel.
that, how old is the last time the tire was serviced?
20 years, maybe? No, I honestly don't know the answer.
Probably have steel wheels.
20 years old.
Yeah,
It's a
steel rims.
2002 RAV. Probably steel rims.
Well, then odds are your problem is the valve. The valve needs to be replaced. I've had that a couple times on my cars. After about 6 to 8 years, something like that, the valves start going bad in that, and they start leaking air. But it can also be the valve itself.
Normally, when your car is that old and you get a new set of hoops, they replace the tire valves automatically.
Right, but it depends upon the last time he got tires. They would have replaced the valve, but now if it's been like 6 to 8 years, it's probably that valve that's leaking.
Well, do you have TPMS in your RAV4 that tells you which tire is low? No TPMS. Okay.
No, not in a 2002. No.
for that age of a vehicle, I'll bet right now, the last time you put tires on that wheel has been more than 6 to 8 years.
Probably.
And that's probably why you're having the problem. And probably all you need is a new valve put on, and you're back in business.
Yeah,
Either that or you picked up a nail somewheres and you just can't find it.
That's a possibility too.
Yeah, that is possible as well. I'm not sure. The thing is, the car won't start unless I use the portable battery pack. It needs a new battery. The engine is making thrashing loud sounds right now. I think the tailpipe came loose. The last time I did that, the guy welded it back on charged me $60 cash and welded it on, but that's having issues. I need a new rear view mirror. I was backing out and broke off the rear view mirror on the passenger side.
Sounds like you need a self-driving Tesla.
The front bumper is being held by nylon rope right now. It got caught on the edge of the garage door and ripped loose. So I've got it held with nylon rope right now. The rear bumper's cracked open. In other words, you look at all these things and you think, do I really want to put all the money into this?
No.
Probably not.
The best offer I had on buying it is Victory Auto Wreckers.
$500.
410 actually.
Oh, not even 500. Okay.
No, 410 if you bring it in. 75 less than that if they have to come tow it.
If you donate it to charity, you get at least $500 as a write-off.
Well, but how do you do that considering you have to have the new thresholds for charitable deductions for Schedule A stuff? There's almost no way to get enough to use it.
Well, it's also dependent upon you doing an itemized tax return. If you are in a situation where you're not going to do an itemized return, you're not going to get anything anyhow.
Yeah.
Well, I do the itemized is done by the H&R Block software anyway. But my biggest deductible number is my congregation stuff that I pay for the annual and the special assessment stuff. But even with that, that's about 2,500. It's still nowhere near enough to hit the thresholds to make it worthwhile to itemize versus the standard.
Right. That's the headache. They're trying to eliminate as much of the itemization to make tax filing theoretically for them simpler. And the end result is the threshold you got to have to make itemization even realistic for the average person is impossible.
Yeah.
I always used to itemize until this last year. And that's because I started doing my donations right from my 401k. Because I qualified, finally at the age you can qualify, I could do that. So this is the first full year that I could do it because a half year didn't make sense.
Okay.
So I started on the first full year last year, and I was able to do the standard, which I hadn't used in 50 some odd years.
One thing I want to pause for a second. Terry Moy, you always come in late, but anyway, we're making a few changes. If you move your mouse so you can see the bottom of your Zoom window, you should see a lot of icons in the center section, and one of them on the right side says raised hand. When you want to talk and say something to the group, please click on raised hand. When you're done talking, click it again and the hand goes away. By clicking on raised hand, you go up in the upper left corner so that it makes it easier for the host to see that you want to speak to the group and then recognize you to go ahead.
Okay. So Tim's saying it's a handy thing to do.
I hope it's handy. Seriously, it does get to be a problem. One other area we might change down the road is disabling the audio when there's the presentation going on, so that various noises in our individual homes don't bother people, such as a ringing phone. You got to make a phone call and you forgot to mute yourself. Or many, many other things. Coughing, sneezing, these all disrupt the meetings. So we may move to that level, but it'd probably be July or August at the earliest we would try it.
There's also a setting we use with APCU. It's mute on entry. So
Yeah.
when people come in, they're by default, you're muted when you come in.
Yeah, that one I knew about, but the other one I knew about too, but we've never decided to use it here. But sometimes it does cause disruptions, even if they're temporary. I also want to mention to the group, APCUG once or twice within the last month has had a Zoom bomb occur. And they were pretty quick in tossing that person out and denying them access. So Zoom bombing is still occurring from time to time, and APCUG is much more secure. You have to pre-register to get into the meeting. So whoever this Zoom bomber was somehow got registered to be able to get added into the group. And then he went off half cocked on I think an iPhone, and they quickly removed him from the group and then removed him from the waiting room and denied him future access.
Okay. Was it somebody whose system was compromised, or was it actually one of their own?
We don't know. Like I said, normally APCUG mutes everybody. APCUG only allows host and co-host people to do sharing of the screen, nobody else. They require pre-registration, so you have to register to even get the invite to get in. So
Okay.
how this person got in, presumably he either registered or somebody gave him their link, and he tried to get in on a phone, and he started going off on a tirade. You couldn't make out exactly what the hell he's talking about, but he's real upset acting, and we just had to.
Things go better with Coke.
Yeah.
Terry, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, what's a Zoom bomb?
Zoom bomb.
And Zoom bomb is where somebody hacks into your Zoom meeting and tries to take over.
Right. They basically disrupt, and this occurred a lot in schools when they had to use Zoom for remote learning, and usually it totally disrupted it. It upset a lot of the kids with what the people were saying, and the only way you could deal with it was kill the whole Zoom session at that time.
Wow.
Okay.
Of course, that's why we put notices in every notice for a meeting, not to pass it out.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, I'm going to start my presentation. I've already sent a copy of it in the chat, or should have sent it. Anybody who's not got it, let me know. I can resend it. I
Just
think
arrived.
I said it sent.
It
Did I hit
just
send? I
arrived as I
did hit
clicked
send.
on it.
Yes, I did. Good. Okay, good. Now I will go ahead and do this. And we hit the share button and see what happens. Okay. Care and feeding of portable electronic devices. So I came up with this because of some of the other things that I've had to deal with as recently as the last couple of weeks, and said, well, maybe this is common enough that it might apply to more than just me and a couple others that are out there. But a lot of devices are ubiquitous in their use in our lives now. And unless you've started experiencing issues with the devices, you haven't given any thought to what I should be doing to preserve and prolong the life of these devices. And there are some things that you can do that will help make them last just a little bit longer. Not quite 12 years, but maybe a little bit more. So what's the number one issue with most portable electronic devices? Believe it or not, it's still static electricity. That's typically the number one problem with a lot of devices. We're not going to see much of it now, but wait about 7 months and you'll have to deal with it all over again. The issue with a phone is, as you're walking across somewhere, you got a phone in your hand and you happen to touch the metal strip along the side of the drywall and you get a big zap. And if it comes through you and your cell phone, well, that could damage your cell phone, and some of the small components that are in there can easily be damaged. They're usually protected to at least 15 kilovolts. But when you walk across a rug, and you can easily generate twice that, close to 30 kilovolts. So, and if it comes in on the power jack or the headphone jack, or even through the screen, it can damage it because there's a capacitive grid right behind that glass screen that if you can touch it and affect it with capacitance, then you can send electricity through it as well. So things to watch out for: static electricity. Other things, almost everything that we have now is being used with lithium batteries. You have to be very cognizant of the fact that the lithium cells are very sensitive to physical damage from any sort of bending or punctures or crimping, a denting, that can easily cause a short inside of a battery and cause it to even catch fire. Temperatures of the lithium cells, they're sensitive to. If it's too cold, you will have only 50% of your battery capacity. However, once you start using that battery capacity, it'll warm the cell back up and some of it will recover. Worse, though, is when it's hot, you try and charge it. If you try and charge a hot lithium cell, most battery chargers are supposed to stop charging of the cell and give you a warning indication that says the cell is way too hot. If you charge it now, you will damage the battery. Because basically you're cooking some of the electrolyte out of the cell and it'll escape through the vent, never to return, and you can lead to battery bulge. Battery bulge is like terminal case on a battery. If you see a flat lithium battery with a battery bulge, time to discard. It's not worth keeping. So what should you be doing to keep from these things happening? Well, anytime the device is warm to the touch, you should not be charging it until it returns to room temperature. Fast chargers, they come with a lot of these things, and people advertise how much faster they can charge your battery. That comes with a penalty. Faster the charger, the more heat is generated, especially within the battery, which can cause a shorter battery life. And with a lot of these devices, you can't change the battery easily, and even some other people who attempt to charge the battery are unable to do so, as I found out on my previous phone, which ended up dead. So you may want to use the old slower charger and let it charge a longer period of time overnight, and you're fine. Wireless chargers also don't charge anywhere at the same speed as the high-end wired chargers. You're not going to charge it in 15 minutes and expect it not to have some impact on the life of the battery. Other things, do not deplete the lithium battery completely, ever. That's the worst thing you can do to a lithium battery. Once you discharge it past its low battery point, you permanently damage the capacity of the battery. Most lithium batteries and or circuits have low cell cutoff voltage monitors to shut down any sort of current from the battery so it does not cause the battery to catastrophically fail. And many devices will shut down before this happens, but you might not have this on some of the older devices. Battery saver usually can help on some of these things as well to reduce the amount of battery draw that's necessary to keep the device running. On Android and other things, it basically shuts down a lot of the location services and some of the other aspects as well. Is your device running slow? How many times have I heard that? There is a plethora of reasons why any of these things can run slow. Easy solutions. If your device is down on the 2.4 gigahertz band for some reason because of distance or because of just got lazy and decided to connect to the strongest signal, 2.4 is probably the worst band to connect on with whatever speed that your Wi-Fi is capable of running, because there's so many other people with other 2.4 gigahertz devices in your neighborhood that are going to interfere with it. And if there's a chance that you are only limited to 802.11g speeds because of compatibility issues, you may only see a maximum of 50 megabits per second throughput. Even if you are on this lower ends of 802.11n, the average speed may still only be 50 megabits per second that you can get on 2.4. But if you were to be up on 5 gigahertz or 6 gigahertz and have an adequate signal strength, you could easily go 2 or 3 times that speed. The way you can do this is to prioritize the SSIDs you use and try and use the higher bands first. So you can organize your list of SSIDs or known access points in which it searches to put your 5 gigahertz devices first. And if you see it connected to the lower band and you wish to speed up, consider manually selecting the SSID of the faster channel. Checking to see if the cache is full on the browsers, or do you have too many windows open, or in Chrome you have way too many windows open. I mean, when you start seeing 45 and 50 windows open, that's going to have an impact. Closing many of the windows, emptying the cache, closing all but the windows you need. On laptops, you've got to remember that there are trash bins and there are temp folders that need to be periodically cleaned up. If you don't ever clean up the temp folder, I guarantee you your machine is going to run like crap, because it's sitting there every time it has to create a new temp file, skipping over the 10,000 some odd files that are already there to make sure it didn't create a duplicate file name. Also, terminating unused or less frequently used apps can speed up the system. And this is more important on systems where the main memory is already constrained and you're at a limited fixed size. If you only got 4 gigabytes of memory on a phone and you're running all kinds of apps on it, it's going to run slow. Finally, have you filled up your device? If you check the amount of storage remaining on your device, if you're at 90% or higher using a flash file system, you're already over capacity. You want to consider moving items of size, photos and videos and other things like that that are large, to other media, backing them up either to the cloud or offline backup storage. If you somehow are able to use SD card media, consider moving the items to the SD card that are static in nature. I don't ever record directly to the SD card for new photos anymore because of the issues that Android had, and basically it destroyed the SD cards after a short period of time, like only a year. So what I use my SD card for is now the backup of the folders that are already in the cloud, but I want to keep a local copy for speed and access. And sometimes it's just more convenient to pull things off of the SD images than it is trying to go to Google, and I want to download a year's worth of photos, and I don't want a zip file the size of New Jersey. So even though I have those photos backed up in Google, I prefer to keep those photos by year on the SD card. So I don't turn archiving on for those folders that are on the SD card. They're just sitting there as a local copy. And the photo app is perfectly happy of showing those for me. And when I recently freed up almost 6 gigabytes of photos from my phone's flash memory to the SD card, I backed it up first to a local server, and then I copied it down to the SD card. So I did a cut first and then copy to the local server, made sure that completed without errors. And then I copied it back to the SD card and did this all connected while the phone was connected via USB connection. And after it was done, much better. Other things you want to consider doing. Bloatware. It's on your phone, on your laptop. If you're not using it, then it doesn't help you. Remove the app and the files associated with it. Some items don't use space until it's been run the first time, so keep that in mind when you're trying to remove something. If you don't use Office and see Office run first time, you're not going to get much by removing it. You can get some, but maybe 100 meg, that's probably it. Games and other apps may still show up with updates, and you can still remove them from your device. Email programs. Occasionally they have cache that needs to be cleared, otherwise you don't get things working quite right. Like display of images will be sluggish or maybe not working at all. In Yahoo Mail, it's called clear cache. In Outlook, you reset your account and you're able to basically clear the cache by doing that. And you can check cache use on other apps that don't explicitly show you what the cache is by exiting the app. Go to settings in Android, you go to settings, apps, select the app you just exited, select storage and cache, and you can see it's how much cache, how much local storage it's using, it's etc. And that's how much you'll be able to free up if you're uninstalling that. And then consider cloud storage for the items that no longer fit on your portable device. I mean, for a couple bucks a month, Google will happily give you more storage. If you want to pay the $99 a year to Microsoft, you can end up with a terabyte of storage in the cloud account. And final, if your phone is over 3 years old, you might be thinking of upgrading it anyway, because sometimes they no longer support 2G and 3G. So you may be moving to 4 or 5G for your new phone. Almost all the newer models have much more flash memory, larger amounts of RAM, and increased battery capacity. And again, consider the use of fast chargers. They come at the expense of battery life. And that's basically my presentation. Questions? Yes, go ahead, Bert. Unmute.
There we go. I saw some notices about iPhone pictures needing to be put up into the iCloud, or that they were changing how the system worked or something. And I'm not sure if that was real or just somebody trying to get you to spend more money in the iCloud.
It's possible. I mean, I always check when I get one of these messages to see where did this message really come from? Is my Microsoft account really compromised? No, I have yet to see one of those messages from a real Microsoft account.
Well, I think there was some notices from Apple, and that's why not fake notices. But I wasn't sure I understood. It was something like in a couple of weeks they were going to change the system or something.
Well, I know that they've always been changing the system in what they will store and how long they will store it for. And also the level of which they will store that resolution. With Google, it's real simple. If you want to keep your 17 gigabytes, you have to have a certain amount, certain resolution. You can keep more photos of reduced resolution, or you can keep the same full resolution photos, but then you also have the issue of being enforced with a maximum storage amount. And that's where you're going to get to. If you have a free Outlook account, They recently changed the way Drive worked to include all of your Outlook files and attachments. So all of a sudden, if you thought you had 5 gigabytes of storage up on a Drive account, guess what? You don't anymore. It just got used up by all that email you had.
Well, I've got a terabyte there, on Microsoft side, and I do use iCloud for backup of the iPhone. But I don't know what that meant in terms of those particular picture files.
Well, see where you're in your Photos app, see how those are being backed up. They may be being backed up to your iCloud account, which
I
will
think
tell
they
you,
also
yes.
wound up getting transferred to the Microsoft side.
And you may be putting them in 2 places. Do you need them in 2 places is the question.
Yeah,
So if you don't need them in 2 places, I mean, the nice thing about having them on iCloud is if you don't have them on your phone, you're still going to be able to search them with your photo app and find the picture you're looking for, even though it's in the cloud now and it's not on your phone.
well, I back that stuff up as many places as possible. I think I have 2,700 pictures on the phone.
You haven't even thought about how many. I think I have way beyond that. I think there are like 10,000 at least I have. And that's because I have kept, some of my photos go back to 2013. So that's 10 years worth of photos. And I take a lot of photos of things that are unnecessary because I will, they're shutting down the free My Photo Stream feature that originally launched with iCloud. Okay. So yes, some features are going away. And I see you've said you have your hand raised. Is that about this
Yeah,
too?
a couple quickies. One, if you use the add-on storage from Google, they've added it now, even the $20 a year plan, you get their VPN included with it. You used to have to do at least the terabyte plan to get the VPN. It's now included even in the basic one. The ultimate in photos, my friend Mike Ward, he's got 175,000 photos right now. He had to develop his own database to store and be able to look it up because it was choking. And I doubt you have that many photos on your phone, Ed. You may have the thumbnails from the cloud, but at any given time, I don't think I ever have more than 100 actual photos on the phone.
Oh, no, I have a lot of photos on my phone. Yes, there was 3.6 gigabytes just for 2020 alone.
Yeah, Google did change the way they count storage. Apple, they just simply closed down a long-standing feature. So these are 2 different situations. You actually did effectively lose storage with Google.
Yes, let's see. What does Google say? Yeah, right now in my Google account, I'm using 13.1 of my 17 gigabytes used.
So how much storage that's on your phone, you're saying?
Not all of it. Basically, yes, a lot of those are on my phone, but a lot of them are now rolled off to my SD card. Because this is only a 64 gig phone when I bought it. And I'm at 49 gig used right now. And it had been higher. I got down to 10% and it was starting to get sluggish. So I thought, but I've been delaying trying to do this. But the external SD card is good for, it's like a 64 gig SD card. And I have probably about 33 on it, something like that.
Sadly, the new Pixels and the new Samsungs both don't have memory slots anymore.
Yeah, it depends on which ones you look at in the Motorola line. The Edges, all of the Edge do not have SD cards, but almost all of the Moto Gs do have SD cards, and they can have up to a 2 terabyte SD card. I haven't seen one of those things yet, but supposedly you can put a 2 terabyte capacity on that for the SD card. I think they come with the larger, the Motorola 2023 5G stylus has got 256 gig of storage. and I'm not sure. I think it came with 8 gig of RAM. So I'm toying with that idea because it's also one of the few Motorola Gs that also supports NFC. So I was toying, do I want an Edge with NFC or do I want a G without NFC? Because there are some things that require near field communication.
If
And
you're
as I-
saying the G stylus has NFC, that's exactly the opposite. They're the only one that doesn't.
the 2023 G Stylus, I just checked the specs because it was advertised at $399 or something like that. So for
No,
$400, they have one that has NFC, but it also goes from not 4 or 6, but up to 8 gig of memory.
That's the 5G capable model, and
Yeah.
it's about twice as expensive as
Yeah.
the one that's not 5G.
That's right. It just came out. I just saw it like, oh, well, maybe
Yeah,
this is an option. Okay.
like the song says, "If I were a rich man."
I just played that clip today. If I was a do.
If I was a bitty bitty rich.
Yes, it was Topol, that version too. Classic. But any other questions about presentation that I can answer?
Wait, we've got to ask it depending whether we know you can answer it.
Sure. Go ahead and ask it anyway.
I have a Chromebook, Samsung, and it no longer updates. You were talking about, Tim's stuff was updating it's Windows stuff. The Chromebooks don't do that. They hit a life point and they just turn off updating, and they keep giving you a message saying, sorry, no more updates for you. So my
That's been
Samsung
known
Chromebook doesn't
for
update anymore.
lots of years. Bottom line is they only give you around 5 years of OS updates, which is better than almost every phone out there outside of Apple. And they were talking, but I don't know if they implemented it or not. On newer models, they were thinking of going to support up to 7 years.
Well, you have a couple of options. They have a downgraded version of Chrome OS that you can put on there, and you don't have as many features or as much access to the Google Play Store, but you can still get some updates for it. Or you can just blow the whole, take out the write protect screw if necessary. Blow away the whole ROM, replace it, and run Linux.
Put the Linux of your distribution of your choice that will fit on it that's appropriate for that processor.
Right.
Yeah. Although on the ARM processors, you're a little more limited.
Yes, you are more limited on the ARMs, true.
I haven't even
But if
tried
it's a
it.
Intel processor, you pretty much can pick the one you want as
Right.
long as it has the right memory protection options, and that's how high you can go. I've had some old Linux distributions, but with some of those Linux distributions, I wasn't really particularly needing a lot of the updates as long as I could do what it needed to be done. And some of the older browsers just stabilized where they were, and I was pretty much okay.
Yeah, my current project is in fact doing a replacement on a Chromebook that I no longer gets updates. I am going over to Xubuntu, and it's Intel based, and it's got fairly capable storage.
And I've already converted 4 of them. 2 of them have just 2 gigs of memory. You can't expand it. And 2 of them have 4 gigs. I didn't know it, could be expanded all the way to 16. And instead of having the eMMC SSD on the motherboard, they actually have a bay, and you can put in a 2.5-inch drive, spinning hard drive or SSD. It doesn't care.
Depends on if you find the ones that are meant to be opened.
Well,
And not glued shut.
well,
Mine's
all
not
of mine
terribly much.
are all screwed. They're all Intel based, so I don't care about it.
Yeah, mine is not meant to be opened, but it opens by screws.
Okay.
And the battery could be replaced, which I will do because I'm down quite a bit on battery capacity. They're lithium polymer batteries, so they don't have all the lithium ion issues. But
Just don't bend it.
well, as you probably know, lithium polymer batteries are like ribbon batteries. They aren't subject to the bending problem.
They are not, but the connectors can still break.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the thing. They have very delicate connectors.
Yeah.
But how are you going to flex a Chromebook that is like a 14-inch screen? How are you going to flex that whole back of that Chromebook?
It's not so much flexing the thing that's in the back, but when you're pulling the battery out to replace it,
Oh, yeah.
and then you're vulnerable.
Yeah,
Because you only have two hands.
iFixit has some very explicit instructions to be careful about that.
Actually, I didn't have a problem replacing the batteries that I have done, and we're not talking just regular Chromebooks. We're talking even PCs. And once I've removed all the screws appropriate for that battery, I've had zero problem lifting the darn things out and putting the new one in and put the screws back in, and I'm back in business.
Yeah, well, I had the cell phone repair place over here in Lake Zurich was unable to bring my Z4 back to life after they replaced the bulging battery. And it was DOA when they returned it to me.
Well, cell phones are an entirely different issue.
Yeah, those are, but phones, you have to pull the glue apart. That's why, well, Surfaces have the same issue. They don't have screws, they have glue holding this stuff together. And, they're a step and a half above a Chromebook, but not by much, because they're usually memory limited and or disk limited.
Yep.
Of course, mine just expanded to pull apart on its own. That's why I need the rubber band.
It overheated and the glue automatically separated for you. Yes.
But it still works.
Well, that's the important thing. As long as it still works, I mean, that's what you're trying to do, is to prolong it. At some point in time, though, some of the gear is no longer supported. Either they don't give you new versions of Android for it, if you're an Android fan. And like Chrome, they stopped doing the updates there. I mean, you're not seeing any new updates for Android 9. I mean, why would you expect it for a Chromebook?
And Apple is the same way. It's roughly 5 to 6 years, and your device becomes obsolete. Now, on Chromebooks and Apples and probably anything else, the device keeps working. You just don't have the security fixes that it may need to make it a reasonably secure device to use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I had to compromise when I picked up this phone originally. It was an Android 11 and it upgraded to 12. But, and I know 13 is out and 14 is on the horizon. And, so I got to think about, do I want to start upgrading? My wife's phone is still on 10, I think.
Yeah, my Moto G is on 10.
But this was
Microsoft just in this week said that they've got upgrades for Surface computers 7, 8, and 9. You can replacement parts.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's something new.
Yeah, as long as they decided to make it so you can get into it and replace the parts, great. But if it was glued shut, intended, like soldered in memory, that's always, that's going to detract from it a whole lot. Unless you are sitting there with a airflow station and you're prepared to desolder it and put in new.
Well, if they're selling the parts to users, then I assume that there's some capability there.
Right. And more than likely it is. So hopefully we're okay in that respect.
I had an old HP computer that was one of these where the screen was sort of like on a post and turned around, and one of the first ones that was sort of like a touch computer that they had, and it broke, and I took it apart, and I could never get it back together again. To get the connectors inside that little post in the right way.
Never was going to work. And was it an all-in-one?
It was a laptop that they used.
Yeah, but it was one of the HP all-in-ones, and it was heavier than hell.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
yes.
it was
I've
interesting to
taken
be
one of
able-
those apart and recycled it.
But it was interesting because you could flip the screen around to show it like it was a tablet for a demo.
Yeah. This was a little bit bigger, the older version of that, yes. But then the problem with that one was the fan for the heat sink was intermittent, and when it would stop running, it would immediately overheat and shut down on the processor. So yes,
Nothing.
that's why that one had limited benefit.
Well, usually on that, and I had some of the first laptops I had were HP. The bad part about the fans, they were sleeve fans, not ball bearing fans.
Yeah.
And that's usually why they would fail. And back then, good luck on trying to find replacement fans.
That's why I've laid in a supply of, now it's probably banned by international EPA rules, Teflon oil that had Teflon particles suspended in a very fine synthetic oil. And you could put that anywheres. And if you put it on the door hinge, that door would never stay open again. It would always close on its own. You had to move out of the house because you couldn't stand it anymore. So
I had a client.
yeah, you could put
where
this to drop on those sleeve bearings.
I had a client where they overheated, and so we got a device that's fans that sit right below the laptop
Mm-hmm.
and plug into the USB, and that seems to work just fine.
Well, if you don't have the actual processor fan going, that still won't be enough unless you're not running anything that ever runs the processor to speed. Because I have one on this guy because it's running a second generation Intel processor. I think it's a desktop chip and not a laptop chip because it uses a minimum of 150 watt power supply.
Whew.
And this one that I have plugged in is actually 2.25. And if I plug in one of the smaller ones, it says, I know you plugged in a smaller power supply. I'm not going to be able to do as much with it. But this one also has the NVIDIA PCI card in it as well. A laptop PCI, but PCI nonetheless. So yes, this one definitely has always run hot, and they've noticed this, and there's caveats in how you can go ahead and take this thing apart and replace the fan and do other things. And the heat pipes that go to the microprocessor, because the fan isn't located on top of the chip, it's off to the side, and there are heat pipes that transfer the heat from the microprocessor to the fan assembly. And that likes to get clogged with dirt and whatever. So you got to blow it out occasionally. But I have the largest USB, highest air capacity known to man underneath this laptop now. I think this one is at like 75 CFM, which is pretty good for a USB powered fan. But yeah, I put a bunch of these down underneath my laptops, and it doesn't completely solve the issue. It does minimize the issue. Okay, if I run Speccy here, it will tell me what my current temperature is on the processor, and it's cooking at about 69 Celsius. So it's not like my desktop that has 4 200 millimeter fans in the chassis. It's an old third generation i7 3770, That one always runs at 42 degrees Celsius, no matter what I run. So if you have enough air, it'll keep it cool. But with laptops, it's harder to get the heat out. And that's really one thing that likes to cook the components. If you cook the components too long, you'll be replacing keyboards and disk drives and other things. I mean, this one's no longer running a hard disk drive. It's running a solid state drive, and the hard disk is over in the DVD bay. So it has, it's been moved to a different section. So, and it's running at temp as well. I mean, it's not, let's see, it'll tell me the, let's see, graphics card is 46 and the storage cards, the SSD is at 45 and the hard drive is at 30. So over there in that other bay, that's nice, and it's content over there where it's cooler. It's located away from all the heat sources. And it depends on what you're running. Zoom is going to be something that runs just enough power that it's going to keep the chip cooking. But Chromebook, it's not. And as long as I keep on getting Win 10 updates, it's happy. I mean, there's no reason other than not having the TPM 2.0 and the Intel chip that it should have been able to be supported under Windows 11, but that's Microsoft's choice. So, and the question is, what do I do with it after Microsoft decides to no longer support 10? Well, then it's probably going to be a Linux machine, unless I've got another machine to replace it, and then this one gets archived. I still do have Win 7 machines that are powered up right now, or not powered up, but they are under power. So if I need to power them up, they're available, and I have used them recently. And other than the message from Chrome that says you're no longer getting any Chrome updates, I said, well, that's fine. I don't get Chrome updates. I'm happy with that. But I still need to use it to access things like, web interfaces on Cisco gear, among other things. That's one of those things that if you have a stable platform, then you can do it, no problem. And it has Internet Explorer on it, which I do need to access some of those things with Internet Explorer. They have, I still don't know what I'm going to do to replace the video monitor system on the Spico video recorder, NVR, that still uses a plugin for Internet Explorer. I have to upgrade the software on it to its latest version and see what they have to offer. But we'll see about that. That may be a subject of a different meeting. Any choices for meeting topics coming up?
I'll throw one out.
Okay.
The Linux subsystem for Windows and the Android subsystem for Windows.
Android.
Interestingly, the Android subsystem for Windows by default runs a version of Android from Amazon with the Amazon store, not the Google Play Store. However, there is a version out there. You have to compile it on your own, and I did. I'm running it, which runs the Google Play Store. So I can load any of my Google Play apps on this Windows 11 machine, and it's in another window along with the regular apps.
I know that a lot of commercial programs that are designed for businesses where they have an Android-based processor and they want to be able to use this like in a kiosk app or something. For the most part, most of those only are allowed to use the Amazon Play Store and not the Google Play Store because of security issues that are supposedly that would impact commercial enterprises. Because I have a tablet that still ran, I think it was Android 2 and it got upgraded to 3, but it wouldn't do the Google Play Store, only the Amazon Play Store. And that was by choice because they didn't want to expose all of the stuff that could be on Google Play to like I said, a kiosk application. So you'll see these things similarly if you've gone into a Walgreens in the photo op and you press the button to call somebody and you hear something over the PA that's customer requires service at the photo booth. That is using a Android system that only connects to Amazon Play Store. Because I used to work with those.
I've had no problem at all using the Google Play version. What I needed was there were a couple apps that only run on iOS and Android. They don't have Windows support, and they don't have browser support. And I wanted to be able to get them on my desktop. So that started me on the path to get that installed. And it wasn't available in the Amazon store, only in the Play stores. So I had to do that, but I had to compile it on my own, and it was like 30 steps. But once it was done,
it's not for the faint of heart. I had similar issues with trying to control some of my Wemo devices, where it wanted to only go through an app that was on Google or iOS and be able to control it. But then I found I think it was a Python script that would allow you to run it under Windows, okay? And it would send the right command off to the Wemo device to turn it on, off, or inquire on its status.
Yeah, another potential topic, and I don't know if you've covered it, is Power Toys. The latest version is 0.70. I mean, they have some really good stuff in there. The latest toy they added is the ability to use mouse and keyboard across multiple machines. You just move the pointer and it just slides to the next machine and the next machine. Microsoft used to have a utility for that they discontinued, but it's back available in Power Toys right now.
Right.
Okay.
That's the current version.
Yeah, 0.70 is the latest.
No, I think it's I could be wrong, but I thought it was 0.70.1. I don't remember anymore.
Yeah, I think it's loading up right now. It's not. Yeah, actually, you are right, because it's saying at the bottom that there's an update available.
0.70.1 is what's on GitHub.
That's
I'm running this 0.70 right now. Evidently, they don't notify you as much now if you're.
I've never seen a notification on Power Toys.
Yeah, they've added inline updating, and I get a message that pops up that says there's an update available. Maybe they're not doing it on the minor point ones anymore, because I didn't get that notification. It's installing right now, though.
Okay.
But there are some, as I said, there are a few in there that are really helpful, like Stay Awake. Which I find really helpful in a couple cases. Otherwise, the machine will tend to put itself to sleep. With Stay Awake, you can set it so it'll just keep it open and running.
I normally have it set that way if I'm plugged in anyway. So I said, if you're plugged in, stay up.
Yeah.
Don't go to sleep ever. Don't
Power
sleep ever.
Toys also has an OCR app in it that reads text off of images, but in earlier versions of Power Toys, I never got it to work real well. It would keep messing up and missing characters and stuff like that. So I'm hoping, and I haven't gotten to it yet, the current version has at least improved it.
Getting back to keeping a computer awake, when I'm doing backup operations, I have to do that. Even
Yeah.
though a backup with Macrium Reflect will only take 10 minutes to happen and then 10 minutes to verify, you could still have a drive go to sleep in that time.
That's not a good thing. Yes, Bert, you have your hand raised.
Yes, my little different topic. I had a question. I use Comcast. You have a router. You have a cable which has to go to the back of the TV. I have some older TVs. Are new TVs now where you don't need a cable to get to the TV where it's wireless back to the router? Without
Not
for
for
Comcast.
normal cable, not for normal cable, but if you're using anything that is web-based, they are basically internet-based instead of physical receiving of signals, then you have an option with a smart TV.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just wondered if some of the newer televisions maybe are able to get wireless back to Comcast.
The problem is not the
Not that
TV.
I've seen.
The problem is not the TV, it's Comcast. Their system is not set up for that.
As there's only limited wiring in an apartment or where you're at in terms of the cable.
Yep.
Although in my apartment right now, AT&T this week is installing fiber to the building. I don't know if their systems will work different or not.
Well, if it's like if it's displaying TV channels with AT&T, it's going to be a dish solution, unless they have basically streaming everything over fiber. I mean, that's an option that sort of comes with some of the dish systems, where you can pick up some of your stuff off of any other streaming service, and basically you're trading internet bandwidth and sending that to the TV.
The fiber optic, the more advanced fiber optic, can handle everything in the fiber optic cable, as long as it's fiber to the home.
Yes. But if he's trying to do wireless to his TV because he doesn't want to have the cable running across the room,
Yeah.
that's going to be a little bit more difficult.
What you would end up having to do is get one of their secondary devices. It's basically a second box or a second room. And some of those connect wirelessly, some of them use what's called MoCA, and some of them use the coax.
Yeah, MoCA is basically Ethernet over broadband cable up over 1 gigahertz. So they're basically using the other end of the high end of the band to communicate back and forth to the main box in the apartment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you have an X1 box, it's capable of MoCA to the peripheral boxes.
X1, I think, does have Wi-Fi capability to satellites.
Didn't check it out. I turned my X1 box back to them because I find myself watching as much stuff on, I mean, you can watch it on HBO, or you can watch it on demand, or you can load up the Max app on your Roku and watch the same stuff there.
Yeah. I do TiVo and TiVo Stream, but it's the same principle.
The downside is some of the streaming services don't always show you the current stuff. Like Peacock might be a week or two backdated.
For the current shows that are also being broadcast.
Yes.
Now, broadcast, my TiVo is the over-the-air one.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's current, I can get it with TiVo. If
Right.
it's older, I can use the app.
Yeah. But I found sometimes where it wasn't available on Peacock, and then I go into On Demand and I can see the one that, and usually if it's the current one, it says it's a full 60 minutes long, and it really is because it has all the commercials.
Yeah.
And if it's a week or two older, it says it's 43 minutes long, but it's really an hour long, and Comcast lies to you as to how long it really is.
Correct.
And you still can't skip the commercials.
That's right.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, I do have Roku and all those kind of things, but uh, it just seems that the building has changed where the wiring is, and you can't have the wires unless there's some wireless solution. So I'm surprised. I thought maybe newer TVs had that capability.
Not on the TVs. They may have streaming capabilities and have high-speed monitors and found a new elegant way of doing that. But
Yeah, see, I got an old Roku 2 puck, and
no longer supported.
oh hell,
I have one of
I don't
those.
care about that. It still works. They keep saying, they want to upgrade my Roku 3, and I say, I ain't got a 3. Anyway, aside from that, I can either hook that thing up Wi-Fi or Ethernet, and I prefer the Ethernet for the solid, stable connection to the internet, and use the Wi-Fi only as backup.
Well, I've got 2 Roku Ultras now. I have the puck, but it's been retired from service. And I actually have another Roku that's never even been opened out of the box, which was the replacement they gave me for the puck. But once I put in the Ultras with the quad cores in them, they had so much better response and streaming capability with my Plex server. I just said everything's going to be a Roku Ultra. And they're connected Wi-Fi to 5 gigahertz, and I rarely have an issue. Occasionally, I'll have to reboot the Roku, and that's seldom. But I can't. I'm strange on occasions, and it's usually due to some of the newer apps are less sophisticated, and they're not as good at garbage collection, so they chew up memory. And then it causes the system to basically sluggish or stop displaying and freezes, reboot, everything's fine for another month or so. Although I have not rebooted my router or my cable modem in a long time.
Well,
I mean, Comcast rebooted the cable modem when they had a cable outage about 3 weeks ago. But other than that, the Wi-Fi usually is rebooted maybe once a month, if that, because it's on a UPS.
your current Roku, are you using 4K capability or not?
No, I'm not using 4K. I only use 1080
Okay,
because that's all my TV set is capable of doing.
right.
Um,
Mine too.
I have seen 4K units, and when I first saw a 4K unit in operation, I said, "Oh, this." What happened here? I can see the pores on this actor's face. This is too real for me. I don't need this level of reality. Put me back at 1080.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've only got a 1080p, and they keep offering these 4K Roku devices, and I say, what am I going to do with a 4K device when I've only got a 1080p television?
Yeah, but it still renders fast, and that's the important thing. As long as it renders correctly and quickly, it's not less sluggish, and it operates, pretty well as intended. So, I mean, that's what you want in a streaming device. Yes, Sid, you had a hand raised.
I actually have excuse me, a 4K Blu-ray player that then talks to the 4K TV. So you can play it that way.
Are you still purchasing 4K video media, or are you basically just downloading everything?
The Schomburg Library has many hundreds of 4K titles available
Okay.
to check out.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll see if I can see anything really quick here. The wireless transmitter and receiver. Okay, well, there are devices that you can hook up to make your TV wireless, but you're still going to need to have communication to wherever the wall outlet is to change the master channel to tell it to go to what channel you want it to go to. But they do make devices that will basically encapsulate the video and audio and send it to your remote TV, so you don't have to have the wire going to it. But it's a single channel at a time. You're taking the output of the cable box, not because the thing that comes out of your cable box now is either an HDMI cable or it's a discrete video and audio section, okay? You don't have a connection that goes right into your TV and it decodes the channels on your TV. Your TV is getting on, or it's set to channel 3 or something like that. That's all it's set to. How do you have you just have it set to channel 3 now?
Xfinity X-Fi does have a wireless option now.
It does.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure Verizon or AT&T Fiber will have that too. That's new with the X1 box.
I remember years ago when people used to try and do this, where they're trying to run the signal to a remote device upstairs via Ethernet, and then they would have a fiber optic cable coming back down to send the infrared, get an infrared transceiver that would receive the connections for your wireless, and it would send it back down to the set downstairs. That was circa 20 years ago. But, or more, maybe even 30 years ago. Yeah, 1990, that sound about right? Had IR transceiver cables that you would hook up. Even had other options that would hook it up so that you could put an IR receiver at a place where you could receive it, and it would plug into the back of your VCR or whatever, and then control it that way as well. Interesting things. Okay, well, I think everything we've talked about, and I can stop the recording.
By the
All
way,
right.
Ed, are you going to be doing next month? too?
Recording stopped.
Am I going to be doing the what?